The 49ers defeated the Tampa Bay Bucks 35-7. Coming into the game, you had question marks regarding the offense. The defense, of course, top 2, arguably top 1, depending on how you feel about the Cowboys or Eagles. But with injuries to both Trey Lance and then Jimmy Garoppolo, there was huge concern for San Francisco whether they would be able to make it to the Super Bowl this year or not. But after this game with the Tampa Bay Bucks, it's safe to say that those worries are for nothing. In comes Mr. Irrelevant from the 2022 draft, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, who came in for Jimmy G last week against the Dolphins, turned out a pretty solid showing all things considered. But it wasn't until his game against the Tampa Bay Bucks that he really started to turn heads. So I got to thinking, just who is Brock Purdy? Can he lead the San Francisco 49ers to their 6th Lombardi trophy in franchise history? The jury's still out, of course, but I thought it'd be fun to take a deeper dive into just who exactly Brock Purdy is. So let's go all the way back. Brock Purdy from Queen Creek, Arizona was a standout at Iowa State. During his 4-year stint there, he broke several team records, including for passing yards, touchdowns, completions, and attempts. Despite all the school records, Iowa State didn't really win all that much in the Big 12, having only one really great season, while the other 3 were mediocre at best. That probably did play into the fact why people weren't that invested in Purdy. Also, he was only 6 feet tall with no blazing athleticism, nor was he that renowned for his accuracy. According to NFL.com, he was the 9th best quarterback option in the draft. And something to consider, y'all, only one quarterback went in the first round. So just keep that in mind, just how lackluster this draft was felt. We do fast forward, and with the 262nd pick in the NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Big Brock. But when you're drafted this late, especially at the Mr. Irrelevant level, you are not promised anything as far as a roster spot is concerned. So he did have to prove himself, and he actually did, outplaying Nate Sudfeld for the number 3 spot on the depth chart. The first domino to fall, though, was the injury to Trey Lance. Unfortunately, very early on in the season, he suffered a season-ending injury. All hope was not lost, though, because Jimmy G at this point had not been traded, although he did sign a contract for less money. And remember, with Jimmy G, they made it as far as the NFC Championship last year, and a few years back they made it as far as the Super Bowl. So you can win with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the formula seemed to have worked out perfectly. After a rocky beginning to the season, the 49ers seem to bounce back, and they start to win a lot of games. They see and believe that this is a big chance to win the big one, and with Jimmy G now taking less money, they were able to acquire the talent of Christian McCaffrey from the Panthers. Then we get to the Miami game, where Jimmy G unfortunately suffers a broken foot, and he is lost for the season. Without their second string quarterback, it's now up to Brock Purdy to carry the way, and his only experience thus far in the league was playing in the final drive of a blowout loss to Kansas City. All things considered, for this 7th round pick, he did pretty well against a pretty middle of the pack Dolphins defense. Going 25 of 37 for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, he earned the opportunity to keep the starting position going forward. So even though he had a pretty solid game, the argument was, well, there's no film on him. Of course, now that there's film, he will come back down to earth. But, look, listen, guys. I've joked on my channel that all Tua needs to do is throw a 5-yard slant to Waddle or Hill, and there's a good chance they can make a touchdown. I do feel like the same rule can apply here, even with Brock Purdy, but he still gives you more than that, and you guys will get what I mean in just a second. It was time for Brock to prove that he will not hinder this talented 49ers team. They have a Super Bowl caliber defense. Now they just need to make sure that the offense can keep up as well. And what better person to prove it than against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks, who, yes, maybe on offense they were struggling, but their defense is no scrub by any means. They are arguably a top 5 unit, top 10 at worst. But it seems like it did not matter, because in this one game, he goes on an absolute tear. Well, not absolute tear, but when you consider everything, he did pretty damn well. He goes 16 of 21 for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. The 49ers win 35-7. Look, guys, I am well aware that the defense played a huge factor in this game. They were tormenting Brady and the offense all night. You also can't ignore that Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is one of the best running backs in the NFL. But you got to consider the other plays that he was making making. There were some deep shots that he was making, and those were not airheaded throws. Those were legit opportunities, just like with this one here that went for a touchdown. And I'd like to think that Coach Shanahan doesn't just do this all willy-nilly. He doesn't do this unless he trusts the quarterback. You're starting the first game of your NFL career. You're doing it against the GOAT himself, Tom Brady, on the other side. The pressure still didn't seem too big for this guy, and you've actually got to admire that. And to Brock Purdy's credit, look, this is coming from Fred Warner, and I do think he said it best. When asked about how he's feeling about the young quarterback, all he had to say was he has been playing against the best defense in the NFL every week in practice. He'll be just fine. Even in a primetime game, it doesn't seem like it's too big for him. It does seem like as long as the quarterback does not make big time turnovers and they know how to be smart with the football, this team is still a Super Bowl caliber team. Just look at the weapons on the offense: Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Debo when he returns, and an offensive line led by Trent Williams, arguably the best left tackle in the game. You pair that with the best defense in the game, and it really doesn't matter who you have at quarterback so long as they are not turnover prone, so long as they don't make boneheaded decisions. Brock Purdy proved that he can do that and then some. Making a play when he has to as well is crucial. The question now becomes, can Brock lead them to a Super Bowl? Well, I mean, to be blunt, yeah, I think I saw everything I needed to see against the Bucs. In fact, the last time a quarterback looked this confident on a Super Bowl run, I think was Tom Brady himself 20 years ago. Late round pick, very young, suiting up for a franchise that's ready to win now and making sure that the moment isn't too big. That does scream like a young Tom Brady from 20 years ago, y'all. And I do think this is a perfect circle of life moment. And Mr. Irrelevant just might be able to pull it off. Defeating the Bucs was one thing, but they're gonna have to go into the playoffs and possibly play someone from the NFC East, which no game is given there. They might have to play playoff Tom because the NFC South, or Minnesota, who despite, struggles right now, can still put up points on any given Sunday. Time will tell, but the future is definitely looking bright. Would I argue that this could be a QB controversy? I don't think so. Not yet. I still think this is Trey Lance's team. Unfortunately, the raw end of the deal seems to come to Jimmy G should Brock Purdy pull this off. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is just a little retrospect about the 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, leading the 49ers to a possible Super Bowl run. I just wanted to share a little bit of information about him. Please consider subscribing. I can't do this without your guys' support, and I am so grateful to have made it this far. Thank you for coming with me on this journey, y'all. I also want to quickly shout out a gaming channel that I'm becoming a big fan of. If you guys are into a variety of gaming, look no further than Keithy Steez, an up-and-coming YouTuber. As of my recording, he's on the road to 100 subs. So if you're into people who are gaming, go ahead and check his stuff out. I'll leave a link at the bottom below. Check him out and let him know Triple DS sent you. Other than that, y'all, thank you guys again. And until next time, shaboy.